This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are a show about creativity, innovation, and design. We are live here on radio every Sunday, and then we get produced as a podcast that comes out every Tuesday. You can find us over on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you find your podcast episodes. This is the 12th season. We are about halfway, or a little more than halfway through our 12th season of the show, so you have the entire archive that you can go back and listen to. Use it as a resource for really building up your abilities and your skills for both personal success, career success, and to transform your business and even your industry. So today we're going to talk about innovation leadership. Last week we talked about the roles of career and career development, and if you wanted to have a career in innovation and creativity. Today we're going to talk about innovation leadership, and this ties back to the point that in some cases within an organization you may not have an innovation leader in place. Why can't that be you? You should take that role. You should be the one inside an organization. If an organization does not have someone who's really that evangelist, who's providing that leadership thought, then you should be it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you need to find a leader in your organization who you can help them become the innovation leader. Innovation leadership is critically important for inside of an organization. Without somebody that's kind of that anchor, it becomes a real challenge. Now, and if you look back on highly innovative companies, the innovation leadership came, in most cases, from the founders, whether that's Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, or whether that's Henry Ford, or whether that was Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak at Apple, Bill Hewlett and David Packard at Hewlett-Packard. Go through the entire list. But in today's world, it isn't relegated just to the founding CEOs. Everybody in the organization has some role in being a leader of innovation, whether it's within the department, within a broader role of influence within the organization, or as the ultimate overall leader. Now, the challenge being is for well-established companies, we have a history of how organizations and businesses are run today. As an example, there was a recent article in one of the business journals. I don't recall it off the top of my head. But basically, they talk about the industrial economy, and that's where corporations and organizational structures got defined. And what they found, or what they created coming out of the industrial economy is, organizations could be efficient if they had well thought out strategies and strong execution. So it was all about strategy and execution. And they followed the business theories of the industrial economy gurus at the time, that they do this by creating strong hierarchies, clear reporting structures. The org chart is really a byproduct of this industrial economy. And maximizing productivity by standardizing and rationalizing every activity, trying to get an activity so well defined that you had a standard operating procedure, and it was really about the lower levels within an organization. Just execute the standard operating procedure. Don't bring any of your own ideas to it. Just do what you're told to do. And that eliminated uncertainties. It provided consistency. Think about Henry Ford and creating the whole process of manufacturing the automobile, which was really the innovation he created. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile. He invented the whole process of how you actually had the assembly line and manufactured the automobile as it went down the assembly line. But that is no longer the case. Today's business environment is much more complex and much more unpredictable. And so to be successful, the organization needs to have or create a baseline of skills and capabilities for innovation. Now, I've written a blog post about this over on philmckinney.com, but I'm going to cover it here a little bit in this podcast in order to share with you some maybe expanded thoughts on this, because it's generated some emails, and I want to make sure you, the listeners, whether you're on the radio show or you're on the podcast, hear more of my thoughts around what this innovation leadership is. So there are 9 leadership behaviors that really reflect this whole concept of innovation leadership. And we're going to run through those. We'll get as many of them done as we can. And again, I'll have everything over in the show notes, and you can check on them then. First off, an innovative leader has a vision of the future. You have to have an opinion. You have to have long-term goals. You have to be able to look beyond don't get so far out beyond the horizon, but get far enough out to where you can provide a vision or a leadership. For instance, in my current role at Cable Labs, our innovation efforts are focused on 3 to 8 years out. We're not 10, we're not 20, we're not 50 years out. For instance, Japanese companies like to get and do these very, very, very long 100-year kind of visions. We're focused on 3 to 8 years out. Because there's the old analogy is that if you as a leader get beyond the headlights of your team, they can't see you to follow you. So you have to stay within the headlights, but you need to be far enough out to where they can follow the path that you're blazing for your company or your industry. So innovative leaders have a vision of the future, and they share it. It isn't about just I've got the vision. I have to have the ability to share that, communicate it, win people to it, and I'm not just holding it to myself. I'm not hoarding that information. But if you're going to be an innovative leader, you need to have a vision of the future. Number 2, innovative leaders establish trust in their employees. So the fact is that you can't be that innovative leader and just dictate. You have to build and establish that trust. So the way to do that, if you're bringing in new innovation to an organization, is don't go for that 8-year vision. Go for the 2-year vision, or go for a 1-year vision. And when people start seeing that success happens, it's like, wow, he set that vision and we executed on it, and wow, that was great. Then you can kind of get out to maybe 2 to 3 years and show some success there. Then you can go out to 4 to 5 years out and show some success there. And as you do that, you're building up trust in the fact that you have a vision, and when the organization or your team executes that vision, good things happen. So you have to establish the trust in your team such that it also reflects back to them. They want to be part of this, they want to see the success, and they want to drive this forward and get excited about themselves being part of this whole effort. So number 3, innovative leaders challenge the status quo. You need to be able to challenge and be comfortable in challenging the status quo. And as a leader, if you're willing to challenge the status quo and nothing bad happens to you, then they're going to be willing to challenge the status quo. Organizations that do the same thing this year that they did last year, that they did over the last 5 years, are not successful. Organizations, even innovation teams, and I keep pounding this point, if you need to constantly innovate the way you innovate. You need to constantly innovate everything you do. Innovation just should be one of those things that you do. So innovative leaders challenge the status quo. They don't rely on that safe and comfortable path, but they, on their future and on the visions, on the decisions they make, they're willing to challenge the status quo. They're willing to get out there and do something different in order to really drive change within the organization. And in some organizations, this is the hardest thing to do. It is incredibly hard. It is risky. You have to have buy-in from the leaders above you that they're going to support you. They've got your back, just like you need to convince your team that you've got their back. Part of a role of any kind of a leader within an organization, whether you're a manager, a team lead, a director, a VP, it doesn't matter what level you are. Part of your role is to be the BS filter. All the stuff that flows down an organizational hierarchy, your job, 1, is to protect your team. Filter out the stuff they don't need to deal with and allow them to do the work that they need to get done without getting distracted by all the BS that happens around the organization. So if you're a leader, you need to be willing to challenge the status quo, whether it's something above you or challenge the status quo below you, but do it in a way that brings those people along. So we're going to stop here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick up on the 9 leadership traits or leadership behaviors that we all need to have in the innovation game. And then we'll talk a little bit about some other thoughts I have on innovation leadership. So stay right there. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We're picking up talking about innovation leadership, and as I shared in the first segment, I'm going through the 9 leadership behaviors that really support innovation and creativity within your organization. This is from a blog post over at philmckinney.com. I'll post a link to it, but I'm expanding upon it here because it generated some conversation and some emails from people on my own team, but also from listener base and from readers of the blog. So let's pick up. We're picking up on behavior number 4, which is innovative leaders possesses expertise in the area that requires innovation. They need to know both some level of detail, but they have to have an expertise around some area of innovation. You don't need to have it day one. Particularly if you're already in a company, you have expertise, whether that expertise is technical or non-technical. You could be an expert in, financial systems and payables, receivables. You can still you can be an innovative leader in the financial department. If you're in IT, you can be an innovative leader within that IT organization. But you need to know both the details and where the organization stands, but also you need to have some form of curiosity. The one trait around innovation and creativity that leaders really value are those that are highly curious. They don't just do their job, punch out at 5, and they're done, but they're constantly curious, and they're bringing up interesting facts. They're engaged on the internal communication systems within the organization, whether that be Slack or whatever. Maybe they're the person who creates the innovation channel on Slack and encourages other people to come together and talk about innovation and ideas and those kinds of things. But there's some level of expertise, and again, that expertise along coming with it is curiosity. The insatiable desire to learn more, do more, understand more, and bring that into the day-to-day job. So again, number 4, the innovative leader does possess some level of expertise, but it does not need to be technical. It can be in any area, but again, paired with that is curiosity. Number 5, innovative leaders set aspirational goals. In many cases, that when I look at setting objectives within an organization, people are afraid to set aspirational goals. We tend to set the bar low, right? And for your top performers, that isn't challenging. That isn't exciting for them. That's kind of a 9 to 5 punch the clock. What I have found is if you can really set aspirational goals, or what I refer to as BHAGs, bold, hairy, audacious goals, teams will rise up to clear that goal. They like the challenge. People will meet the bar that you set. Don't set the bar low, particularly as an innovation leader. Set the bar high. Have a team that gets recognized as being high impact, high level of engagement, and just kicking butt and just knocking it out of the park in the innovation and creativity game. So set aspirational goals. And it's simply because of the fact that it allows people to achieve with what it is people find of value in themselves. We're proud when we do something that the other people said was impossible. We're proud of the fact that when we do achieve that success, we know how hard that really was and how much of a team effort that it really took. So don't underestimate setting those aspirational goals. Number 6, innovative leaders move quickly. In fact, what you found is that when you look at innovation and innovation impact from organizations where you had, the ability to go back and measure an organization and the role that the innovation teams had in driving success, what you found is that there's a clear correlation between speed of execution and degree of innovation. And therefore, what you want is you want to be that leader that is driving that pace. You're not satisfied with, waiting for something. You find ways to work around. You find ways to get early versions of something that you're working on, whether it be an internal process or a new product or some new widget that you're working on. You find a way to get it done at a record pace rather than what the normal pace of operation is within your organization. So in that case, speed of execution is direct correlation to being an innovation leader. You can't operate at the same pace that is your normal organization. So if your organization says, okay, it takes 2 years to do something, the question you should be asking yourself is how do I do it in 1 year? How do you do it in 1 year? How do you throw the rule book out? Now, I have bunches of examples on this. Most recently here at Cable Labs, when I first got here, we were working on a new version of what's called DOCSIS. DOCSIS is the fundamental technology that allows you to have high-speed data over your cable infrastructure. So if you buy cable in the UK from Virgin or UPC, or here in the US from Comcast, or in Canada from Rogers or Shaw, or in Australia, if you get it from any of the operators there, but operated by NBN, they all use DOCSIS. That was invented at Cable Labs, where I'm the CEO. When we were coming up with a new version of DOCSIS, the general history of DOCSIS is that it would take roughly about 4 years to create a new generation. So we had DOCSIS 1, DOCSIS 2, DOCSIS 3. We're coming out with 3.1. But it was typically, if you looked at it across the 4 generations that we've had previously, 1.1, 2, and 3, it was, about 4 years. And I challenged the team, we were going to do it in 2 years. Thank God the windows in our offices don't open up, because people would have been jumping from the window. But the reality is by setting that 2-year bar, and we needed to hit that 2-year bar for a number of reasons, and I explained all those reasons and got the buy-in from the team, we had to throw the rule book out. We couldn't do it the same way we did it before. We had to go back and challenge the status quo. We had to come back and come up with an entirely new way. And guess what? We delivered it. We delivered on time, 2 years, completion of the specification, as was set out for ourselves. And then we accelerated that execution with outside partners to get first product into the hands of the industry. And, now we're in active rollout and deployment. And when you get that multi-gig service to your house, you can send me the thank you note. But we're very proud. The team didn't think it was achievable, but that team that did that just totally kicked butt. So again, set those aspirational goals, which we did, and in turn, also move quickly. Execution is your competitive advantage. It's not about having the idea or having the idea in the notebook. It's about that execution. But you need to have both. You got to have the aspirational goal, and you have to move quickly. And those are kind of a very unique combination that I have found really can drive change in an industry, drive change in an organization, and open people's eyes to what they're really capable of doing when they are challenged to do something great, meaningful, and impactful. So with that, we're going to take another quick commercial break. We will be right back, and we'll continue on our discussions. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We're picking up our conversation around the 9 leadership behaviors around innovation. And we're really reinforcing the role and the importance of innovation leadership. If an organization wants to have high innovation impact, they have to have someone in the organization needs to have, or broadly across the industry or broadly across the company, has to have these capabilities or these behaviors. And we're picking up at number 7. Number 7 is innovative leaders crave information. They crave the fact that there are facts, data, input that can drive innovation. They typically do this by asking really good questions and listening to the responses. This feeds into the curiosity. Curiosity is kind of that internal drive. Information is what satisfies that curiosity. So if you're involved in healthcare or you're involved in any area, how do you go find out what the needs, wants, issues, challenges, problems that are being faced by your organization or even within your own team? One of the things that I did at HP, and I craved information when I was the CTO at HP, around what did customers really, really think about our product. And one way I did this is on most Saturdays, you would find me standing in retail where customers could buy our retail products, whether that be an HP printer or an HP laptop or desktop or an HP monitor, or when we sold TVs, HP TVs in the TV section of, let's say, a Best Buy, or back then it was also Circuit City. So I would go in and I would stand in retail and I would watch customers come through, let's say, the laptop section, and maybe they looked at an HP product, looked at a couple of other companies' products, and they chose somebody else. They did not choose the HP product. I would walk up to them, I would introduce myself, and I would hand them my business card, which tended to freak them out. Here's the CTO for Hewlett-Packard, stalking them in retail. And I'd say, no, I'm not here to change your mind. But can you tell me you looked at this HP product, but you chose this competitor's product? Can you explain to me why? What was it that caused you to choose the other's products? And that satisfied my curiosity. I didn't want to read market research studies by some third-party study groups, or I'm not a big fan of focus groups. I've seen too many times where focus groups lead you way off into the rabbit trails and not really get focused in on the key issues. It's one-on-one, me and a customer who's right at the moment of the buying decision. So for me, that's what satisfied my crave for information, which was by asking good questions and then being an active listener and really discerning what it is they're saying. Because even in that situation, they tend, particularly when they know who I am by my business card, they'll tend to want to be nice, right? They tend not to want to give you the brutal answer. Perfect example, I was down in Fullerton, California, visiting my son when he was finishing his undergrad at Cal State Fullerton. And I was staying at his apartment. We get up on Saturday. I said, hey, let's go over to Best Buy. My son gets that look on his face like, Dad, no, we're not doing the stalker thing. I'm like, hey, just really quick. It's a Best Buy that I've never been in. I want to go see how the products are on the shelf, and I want to talk to some customers. So we go over to the Best Buy. He goes off to the gaming section, and I'm standing there. And the store manager comes over and introduces himself and says, who are you and why are you staring at my customers and my employees? I hand them my card. I explain to him who I am and what I'm doing. He gathers up all the salespeople on the floor there, and I do a little introduction. And then I start asking them questions. I said, so how are the HP products selling? And everybody wants to be nice. They go, oh, no, they're selling great. I'm like, okay, stop the BS. How are they selling? And one of the sales guys says, well, we've got the new product line that you just launched last month, but nobody over the age of 50 is buying it. And I'm like, what? He goes, yes, nobody over the age of 50 is buying this product. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? So he walks me over to this product, and it was an HP laptop. And I look at it, and this product is right when all the big design thing was going to this aluminum look. So HP had gone to this aluminum look, which includes the keyboard deck, which is the flat area where the keyboard is, your touchpad. All of that section is what's called the keyboard deck. Well, HP designers had gone a little extreme, and not only had they made the keyboard deck aluminum, but they had made all the keys aluminum. So you had black lettering on these aluminum keys. And what it was anybody over the age of 50 that had wore glasses and typically had bifocals or transition or progressive lenses couldn't read the letters on the keys. They liked the product, they just couldn't see the lettering on the keys. And so they chose somebody else's product. So I called down to our laptop group, pointed out the issue. They immediately swapped out the design. Within about 45 days, we'd replaced the keyboard deck and all the new products. We went back. So that actually answers the common question is why are all keyboards black with white lettering? Because it's the highest contrast for those people who are visually challenged, whether with glasses or maybe some other vision challenges. High contrast makes it much, much easier. And so, but nobody would have thought about it. We would have seen the decline in sales, and we would have accounted it for, we priced it wrong. It doesn't have a big enough hard drive in it. You know, just looking at the sales results and trying to correlate it back to the problem without being actually in the field and asking the questions. So innovative leaders crave information. This is one that's very, very personal to me. Number 8, innovative leaders excel at teamwork. If you're going to be an innovation leader, you got to put your self-interest to the side in the interest of collaboration. You got to put your ego to the side. It's not about individual credit. It's about team credit. It's about giving credit to others. Even if you came up with the idea, everybody wants to be quick on thumping their own chest like, I did this. Share the credit. That's how you're going to build a team. Innovation is a team sport. It's not about as an individual, it is a team sport. And then innovative leaders value diversity and inclusion. Now, I've written about this many times. You've heard me talk about this many times around diversity. Yes, you need to have diversity from an HR perspective, and that's actually good for business. You also need to have another layer of diversity, which is having people on the team that look at or who have different experiences, right? You know, do you have everybody that looks just like you or has your same background? Do you have people on your team maybe who did not go to college? Or do you have people on your team who maybe were born and was raised outside the U.S. and came to the U.S.? Do you have people that came from money, their parents were fairly well off? And do you also include people on your team whose parents didn't have money and they had to work 3 jobs to put themselves through college? All of that meshes up and has an impact on how we think about and how we look at problems and opportunities. The other piece here is neurodiversity. You need people on your team who think differently. And this includes, people who maybe are spatial thinkers, people who are connection thinkers, people who are left brain, right brain. And we've had some previous shows and some previous blog posts on this whole issue of neurodiversity and thinking differently. You should go back. If you have not already listened to those, go back and listen to those. Because what I have found when I've gone back and done a postmortem on my teams that had the highest impact, revenue generating, margin generating, recognition, industry recognitions, any criteria you want to use for success. The teams that I had put together that had just knocked out of the park were the teams that were most diverse. And it's this diversity that really drives that teamwork and that ability to look and actually analyze and collaborate, bringing all those different perspectives together that drive the success of the overall program. So again, innovative leaders value diversity and inclusion. And that includes including people who have counter ideas. They don't always agree with you, that challenge you, and in some cases can be obnoxious. So again, number 9, innovative leaders value diversity and inclusion. So stay right there. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and then we're going to pick it up, and I'm going to come up with and share with you some questions as leaders that you should be asking yourselves. And by answering and being honest about these questions, you can really gauge how ready you are both as a leader, if you're in a leadership role today, or what it is you need to work on to get yourself positioned to be the innovation leader within your organization. So stay right there. We're going to be right back after this commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We talked about in the first 3 segments of the show the 9 leadership behaviors. They included number 1, innovation leaders have a vision for the future. Number 2, innovative leaders establish trust in their employees and teams. Number 3, innovative leaders challenge the status quo. Number 4, innovative leaders possess expertise, also curiosity. Number 5, innovation leaders set aspirational goals. Number 6, innovative leaders move quickly. Number 7, innovative leaders crave information. Number 8, innovative leaders excel at teamwork. And number 9, innovative leaders value diversity and inclusion. So now what I want to do is I've got a handful of questions here that I think, well, I'm a firm believer, are the right questions to ask yourself to see how prepared or how you're acting from a standpoint if you're in an innovative leadership role today, or you want to be a leader of innovation within your organization, or in some cases, if you're going to do innovation as a consultant on behalf of other core organizations. So question number one, am I involved in the ground level with my team? Innovative leaders don't ask their team members to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. They just don't get progress reports. They just don't sit back and wait for statusing in their one-on-one meetings. They get involved. They walk around. They go into the lab. They participate in testing things, right? So in our case, in my current role, they'll put out a call for people to come in and participate in a test of some new pieces of technology. I'm in there right away. Yep, count me in. I'm going to do that. And so you have to be willing to do what it is your team is looking to do. Question number 2, do I protect my organization's innovation resources? Within a lot of organizations, innovation or research and development or product development is one of those budgets or line items or resources that gets throttled particularly if the company's public, on quarterly results. And I lived this nightmare for many, many years where there's a tough quarter coming up. So all of a sudden, any purchasing gets shut down. The purchasing systems don't allow you to buy anything. Your best players get pulled from a project to go help put out a fire someplace else. The roles in innovation leaders, how well do you do at protecting those resources and making forward progress? And does your team consist of the A team, or is the organization giving you the B, C, or D players, right? So question, I protect my organization's innovation resources? Question 3, have I clearly laid out my goals? Do you define your goals in such a way that both the overall senior leadership, if you're not in a CEO role, but maybe, wherever you are in the organization, do the leaders above you understand your goals? Does your team understand your goals, and does the rest of the organization understand your goals? Being very clear about your goals helps the organization understand what you're doing, where you're going, and how they can support you. Question number 4, am I encouraging teamwork throughout my organization? Now, this is one that I've seen become a real challenge for some organizations. You talk about teamwork within your team, but then your people see you have battles with your peers or with maybe 1 or 2 senior executives, right? Where, maybe they're not playing well with you or you're not playing well with them. If you're going to show and encourage teamwork within your team, You need to model that across your entire organization, no matter how hard that is or how you got to bite your lip. You have got to model that teamwork. And one is, if you do a good job at modeling teamwork, not only does your team then reflect that, but you can also be a way of encouraging the entire organization and their willingness to change and be part of that. And this ties into question number 5. How's my attitude? Now, when it comes to innovation, positive attitude is everything. It is about, being up, being positive, being excited, because guess what? Innovation is hard. It is incredibly hard. You're going to run into failures. Projects aren't going to work out, right? If you look about, how many times did Thomas Edison try filaments for a light bulb before he finally found one that worked, right? Thousands and thousands of tests. You're going to get frustrated. And this got really manifested for me when I took the CEO role at Cable Labs, right? I quickly figured out, though, that the entire organization keyed off of what my attitude was. If I came in the morning and I was grumpy or maybe just didn't have that high energy level, as soon as I walked through the door, the receptionist saw it, and then the receptionists, then other people saw it, and they start talking amongst themselves, like, what's wrong with Phil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now I've gotten myself in the habit that before I come into the front door and I park in the parking lot, I just sit there for 2 minutes and just get my head screwed on straight, right? Recognizing that as soon as I walk through the front door of the office, I'm on stage. Everybody's looking to me. Everybody's keying off of my energy level, my passion, my excitement, my curiosity, and I can set the tone for the entire organization. The same applies to your own teams, so don't underestimate it. Question number 6, do I understand my team's member strengths? Do you really understand your strengths? If not, I would encourage you to use tools like Strength Finders or Round Peg, and we've got podcast shows. Just go into killerinnovations.com, go to the search bar, and you can look at innovation culture, or you can look at just search for Round Peg, and it'll come up. And in that case, I share with you how we use these tools to understand the strengths and passions of the people on our teams, and then how do you really leverage those strengths for success. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. So the 6 questions that I wanted you to understand was: question number 1, am I involved in my team at the ground level? Number 2, do I protect my organization's innovation resources? Question number 3, have I clearly laid out my goals? Question number 4, am I encouraging teamwork throughout my organization? Number 5, how's my attitude? And question number 6, do I understand my team member strength? So with that, we're going to wrap up today's show. Show notes will be over at killerinnovations.com. Don't forget, hop over to iTunes, give us a rating. I read all of those ratings. If you have questions you would like to have answered in upcoming shows, go ahead and send them over to phil@killerinnovations.com, and we'll do that. And Chris, thanks a lot for the questions we used in the first 3 segments. I really appreciate that email. And let me know, give me an address, and I'll send you a copy of my book free of charge. If for anybody that sends a question that we use on the show, you'll get a free autographed copy of the book. And just let me know where to send that. Okay? With that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Autism. 1 out of every 68 children in America are impacted across every race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic group. If you aren't directly affected, someone you know is. Today's world doesn't support those on the autism spectrum. It needs hacking for us to truly welcome those who think and create differently than ourselves. We're Hacking Autism, a nonprofit charity with a mission to hack therapy, technologies, and career opportunities that improve the personal and professional lives of people on the autism spectrum. We believe that everyone can play a role in supporting those on the autism spectrum so that they can show their unique talents and abilities in this fast-paced world. You aren't powerless in this fight. Use your gifts and talents to make a positive impact. Join us in making a difference. Go to hackingautism.org to learn more.
Carpenters have their hammers and saws, chefs have their outfitted kitchens, and musicians have their instruments. A craftsman's ability to do their job is dependent on having the right tools. So where does an innovator, someone who takes an idea and makes it real, find the right tools to do their job? Outfit your innovator's garage by visiting innovation.tools. Innovation.tools is an online store created by innovators for innovators. It's where you will find tested and proven tools to help you create that next great product or service. These tools include books, audio training, video training, brainstorming how-tos, and much, much more. And for a limited time, listeners of Killer Innovations will get 25% off on your first order by using the discount code RADIO at checkout. And 100% of our profits from your purchases will be donated to charity. So go to innovation.tools and create that next great innovation.
Rwanda is a shining example of how the global community can come together and rebuild a country after a devastating genocide. But there is still more that needs to be done. In the rural villages, students are crowded into schools with no electricity, no running water, no internet access, and limited sanitation. Will these kids be ready to continue the rebuilding of Rwanda, or will they be dependent upon others? Through education and employment, boys and girls have an equally promising future that can transform their struggling communities. For $20 a month, a child can be educated and a community strengthened. By supporting Pioneer Education Africa, a 501c3 charity, you partner with others to provide education that will prepare a generation to take on the task of self-reliance. 100% of the proceeds received go directly to the education of the children. Visit pioneereducationafrica.com to find out more.